folks. Good day. Welcome back to another episode of Pirkei Avos, live from Israel with Rabbi Chaim Coffman. This is one of my favorite classes, folks, because you cannot go wrong with ethics. Ethics of the fathers, taught by a rabbi out of Israel. What better? What better? You can't go wrong. There's nothing these trolls have to say or these haters have to say against ethics. We're talking about ethics. Ethics is where it's at. How can you go wrong with ethics? And who better to share it with us than a wonderful rabbi who's just always on fire to share Torah. We're so enjoy and appreciate him. Folks, here's Rabbi Chaim Coffman. Rabbi, how you doing today? Always a joy to be with you.
Doing great. You know, if ethics weren't such a big problem, I wouldn't have trolls, would I?
That's right.
and it's not just about ethics, it's about anything else. Just mention, you just mentioned oral law, right? And the trolls keep yapping. How come it doesn't say anything about the Noahides, right? In the Torah, I've asked you 4 times. I gave you an answer 4 times. You don't like it, okay? I'm still waiting my answer about Ruth and King David. Still haven't given me an answer. So
that's your checkmate, Rabbi. I don't think anybody's going to take that.
I was introduced on Tanakh Talk as Rabbi Chaim Checkmate Coffman. So that's where we are.
Beautiful. Yeah. Checkmate.
All right. That's it. Let's get started here. So we started the 14th Mishnah last week. We sort of got almost halfway, and we started speaking about the next part of the Mishnah that says, if I'm not for myself, what am I? Right? That was the question. Means that you have to be part of a community, right? That's what we sort of mentioned, that you certainly have to be part of a community. And if you're not part of a community, right, I get this question a lot. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah, right? The Karaites will be happy, right? The trolls will be happy. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah, to be a Jew, you have to live with Jews. Right? It doesn't say anywhere in the code of Jewish law. Okay, that's rabbinic. Good. It doesn't say anything about that. So what? How are you going to be a Jew if you don't move to a Jewish community? Right? Comes on the Rambam. Maimonides says, Maimonides says, it's one of the 24 things that stops a person from repentance. That is, you separate yourself from the community. Now, it doesn't matter if I can't move there, I want to move there, whatever my intention is. At the end of the day, you have to get there. Otherwise, right, a rabbinical court is not going to, it's not going to convert you. They'll say, one of the first things they'll ask you is, where do you live? And you say, hey, I live in the Yukon. There's no CFL. There's nothing, right? It's just a frozen tundra. They're like, wow, there's a frozen tundra. Not even water buffaloes. Nothing. If there's nothing there, well, when you're serious, call, right? You have to be among Jews. It used to be maybe 300 years ago, 400 years ago. You could see what Jews do and understand by osmosis, but that's certainly not the case today. So we mentioned also the Mor V'Shemesh, which was written more than 200 years ago, and he comments on Parshas Kedoshim. We're going to read in a few weeks. We read a while ago, Book of Leviticus, chapter 19. Right, it says, "Be holy." Right, it says, don't make the mistake that a person, if he's alone, he's going to attain holiness. Right? You got to be part of a community. The Torah says at the beginning of chapter 19, the book of Leviticus, you have to be holy. Right? It says it in the plural, Kedoshim, not Kadosh. Right? That you, in plural, will be holy. Because the greatness of the Jewish people is the fact they have a connection to a community. When you have a part of a connection to a community, that means you have the good things. They can be happy with you when, you have a milestone. That's a good thing. If a child gets married, if a child becomes bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. Let's say, God forbid, somebody dies, right? A family member you have an obligation to mourn for, right? A mother, father, sister, brother, God forbid, a child or a spouse. So they come to be what we call menachem avo. They come to give condolence, right? To come to help you, get through this difficult time. So therefore, community is crucial, not only for those things, but obviously, why are you coming to the community? You're part of a synagogue. What's the purpose of being part of a synagogue? Is praying, right? That's also tremendously important. Now, also interesting is that a person can be alone with themselves in the sense that if they sin, they themselves will be punished and the community can't save them. Now, you might think, if I'm part of a community, You go according to the majority, right? If you go according to the majority, then if the majority of people are good, maybe they can save me, right? Or maybe they can save someone who sinned, right? Obviously, this goes absolutely against Christianity, because Christianity is very big in saying I don't have to do anything. I don't have to take responsibility for my actions. I don't have to worry about the community. It's beautiful. It's called pass the buck. Or as we would say as we would say in football terms, that's a third and long or a punt, right? In other words, you have to take responsibility in your actions. Now we'll get we won't be politically correct here, because I'm never politically correct, but we'll see what's going on in the States and other parts of the world. You got people that are looting, because of this travesty that happened. Now, even if we all agree, it was a travesty, as a Noahide law, what do the Noahide laws say? One of them is don't steal, right? If you transgress any of the Noahide laws, you are liable for the death penalty. I don't have to warn you, right? I spoke on Thursday about this, right? If someone even steps by the foot of the door, technically, I have the right to kill you, right? You're going to come and destroy my property, right? Therefore, I don't have to warn you, right? Because I know what you're going to do coming in. There's a Torah precept. It's called the Baba Machteres. If someone digs underneath your floor, used to be that people didn't have wooden floors. It'd be very easy to break into someone's house. When someone came into your house, they know you're going to step up against them. And therefore, you're going to try and kill them, and they can kill you. So therefore, if you're in the house at any time, I have a right to kill you, right? Because you know what you're up against. I know what you're up against. And it doesn't matter if it's mistaken identity. There was a case in Louisiana a number of years ago, or more than 20 years ago. A foreign exchange student, Japanese student, was staying by somebody, and they came in the middle of the night. They didn't have the key or whatever it is. They got locked out. They came through the window, and the owner shot him. The owner shot him and killed him. And Japan was all up in arms, right? Tremendously up in arms. They wanted compensation. They wanted manslaughter and all that. But if he was a Jew, according to the laws of Judaism, he didn't know. He called out. The person didn't answer. Now, normally you're not going to call out. You think someone's coming to attack you. So what do? Your life comes first. You kill them. You shoot them, right, if you have the ability, right? And according to the Torah, there's nothing wrong with that. So why do I bring this up? So I bring this up because you should listen to my Q&A. It was a lot of very good information there. But the point is that if a person sins, now this is universal, right? We're talking about someone who steals. Everyone agrees you're not allowed to steal. I don't care what they did to this guy. I don't care how the person grew up, right? And I'm going to actually hit that in my Q&A this week on Tuesday, that it doesn't matter if the person came from a broken home, right? I don't care if he was abused. I don't care if anything happened to this person. The fact that they're causing damage doesn't matter. They may need psychological help. They need other types of help. They might have to go to therapy. All these things they may be obligated to do. But at the end of the day, I can't whitewash it and say, okay, they came from a broken home. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to save that for, Tuesday, what to expect on Tuesday. So in this case, we would say if you're enjoying with the community should help you. In other words, if the community is doing the right thing, if most people are doing the right thing, why don't I say if the person sinned, it's not his fault, right? He shouldn't be liable. But that's not true. The community cannot save you in this sense. Everybody's responsible for what they do. It's not like the Christians and pass the buck. You have to own up, right? It's put up or shut up. Did you do something wrong or not? If you did something wrong, you're liable, right? There's nothing to talk about. Again, background, what you went through, abuse, that doesn't matter unless the person wasn't in their right mind. Right? If you can prove insanity, right? If you could prove insanity, maybe that's different, right? But in this case, it doesn't matter what the undercurrent is, right? There is an undercurrent of racism, right, in the States and other places. It exists. It's not going to change, right? And this is certainly not going to help, destroying people's business, whatever. Now I understand the terrible tragedy that's been done. We're going to change a new leaf. I don't think so. Right? I definitely don't think that to be the case. Regardless, I digress here. Regardless, over here, the community, right? The community is not going to help a person. Comes along, Comes along the brisker Rav Yisrael Yitzhak Zev Soloveitchik, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, may his name be blessed, famous son of Rav Chaim Brisker, says that now when someone does something, right, it could be 100% they're guilty, right? There's nothing to talk about. But if God represents absolute truth, we're in trouble, right? In other words, God has compassion, but it doesn't mean that the person's going to get punished straight away. Now, why is that? Because if a person did something wrong, let's say they spoke badly against someone, they spoke Lashon Hara, they said something against the CFL, whatever it is. So if they speak badly against others and it's wrong and they're guilty, you should get zapped. But why isn't God going to zap you? You're going to tell me, well, he's got mercy. That's true. He's got mercy up to a point. But the reason he's not going to zap you, because if he zaps you every single time you do something wrong, that means you won't have free will. Right? So imagine you sit down to a steak, potatoes high in cholesterol and fat, and all of a sudden, zap, it gets changed into a salad. You're going to say, hey, why do bad things happen to good people? Right? But a person's not going to get punished unless 100% they're going to deserve it. They haven't woken up. They didn't get the message. So God will say, okay, what can I do? A child does something wrong. Parent has to punish them. If a parent doesn't punish, what does King Solomon, the wisest of all men, say? It says in Proverbs, someone who spares the rod is cruel. Now, that doesn't mean we whack people, right? Certainly hitting children today doesn't work. We're not talking about it. They'll probably call the police on you anyway, right? The point is they need discipline, right? You're obligated, the parent's obligated to discipline them. So God is not going to punish 100% unless he sees he has no choice. He warned them, right? Things happen around them, doesn't change them. So God says, okay, I'm going to hit you in the pocket. That doesn't change a person. What happens? Then God's going to have to hit you in the body, right? Then a person, will get sick. And then when you're sick, you can't do anything, right? You flatten your back, you feel terrible, right? So then you scream out, but that's when unfortunately, sometimes, that's when you get the message. So the Balei Musar, the great rabbis of ethics, tell us on the day of judgment what helps, what can help a person in the time of judgment, right? Rosh Hashanah comes along, Rosh Hashanah, that every Jew, non-Jew is judged, right, for what they did the previous year, and where they're holding, not what they're doing, not what they could do in the future. Everything's about right now, right? How do we know it? Where do we learn it out from? So we learn it out from none other than Yishmael, because Yishmael's about to die, right? He's starving. He's thirsty, right, starving, or whatever. And what does it say? The verse over there says, Basher Husham. That's where he is, right? The rabbis learn out that you can only hit a person where they're holding right now. Why? Because the angels tell us in the Medrash that the angels say, kill him right now. They tell God, kill him right now. Look at all the danger and all the killing and murdering that his offspring, right, the Arabs, the Muslims are going to do. God says, I'd love to do it. Stop all the punishment in the future. 100% true. There's only one problem. Problem is, what's his status right now? Is his status right now, is he guilty? He's a child. He's not guilty. So God says, I can't kill him. He's not liable. Right? So the Torah there says, you hit him Basher Husham, where he is now. Not in the future. Wow. So we learn it out from Yishmael. So say the Balei Musar. The Balei Musar explain a person's going to get judged. What's something that can help save a person from bad judgment is the fact if they work with the masses. If they help out the masses, they're needed, right? Collectively, even if that person is liable for the death penalty, collectively this person is needed to help out others. Therefore, if he's needed to help out others, even his family, let's say, whatever the case is, if he's got a death judgment on them, that can save him, right? Or her, because they're needed by the masses, right? So therefore, a person can get tremendous amount of merit to save them from punishment, and God will have mercy because they help other people. So when you help other people, it deflects, the judgment. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it deflects, it'll deflect the judgment 100%. Obviously, you see these people, eventually die or could, whatever. If there's someone to replace them, right? If there's someone who can take their place, good. Then God can say, okay, I got someone to take their place. This isn't necessarily going to help them. They deserve to die, and I'm going to take them out of this world. Now, again, how that works, when, what, where, okay, that's not for us to know or certainly understand, right? But the Bali Musar explained that the way a person can save himself, at least give him more life, give him more chance to live, even if they're liable for the death penalty, is that they help out other people, right? They're part of an organization. They're doing, whatever to help the masses. And it's such a tremendous thing. God has mercy, right? That's a pretty unbelievable idea, to save a person from a potentially bad judgment. Now, come along the Bali Musar as well. There's a difference of opinion between the great rabbis of what we call Noahide and of Slobodka. Different ways of learning Musar, different ways of looking at the world. According to the ways of the Noahide, they held that service of God, a person 100% has to nullify themselves, realize that they're a piece of dirt, and they're only dust and ashes, and after they die, they're going to be eaten by worms, right? That is pretty depressing, right? If you remember, probably age myself a little bit. If you remember Bill and Ted's Great Adventure, right? Dust, dude, right? When they saw us, they called,
excellent adventure.
Yeah, right. When they saw Socrates, or Socrates as he was known, he's like, I forget what the exact. I meant to look it up before. It was like something dust, dude, whatever it is. So in this case, right, Bill and Ted's Great Adventure, I heard through the grapevine actually making another one. I don't know, next few years or something. Either case, according to the school of Noahide, person has to realize they're nothing. Right? In other words, they're worthless, etc. They're only going to be dust and ashes. So comes along the school of Slobodka. Now, the school of Slobodka said that they held the person who strives in Musar, strives in ethics to be better, to change character traits, etc. They had knowledge of the greatness of man. Right? The greatness of man, the ability to reach high spiritual levels to uplift their soul. In other words, they understand as the Nefesh Chaim of Chaim of Volozhin, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, the great student of the Vilna Gaon, Rav Elijah Vilna, he writes in his epic work Nefesh Chaim, never been translated, but I think he has a commentary actually on Ethics of Our Fathers, I think that has been translated. Regardless, he says at the beginning of Nefesh Chaim, do not think my actions don't matter. Right? And he says, you don't understand. You may think, as we mentioned, I think here before, person may think they're in an infinitesimally small speck of cosmic dust. They grow up in a town, in a city, right? In a state, in a country, getting smaller on a continent, getting smaller on a planet, getting smaller in a galaxy, getting smaller, right? The person says, what does it matter? What does it matter what I do? Right? What I do should have no significance whatsoever. So Nefesh Chaim brings an example. What's the famous example? I think we mentioned this also, is the tree of life. The tree of knowledge. Right? Eating from the tree of knowledge. When Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, what did they do? The tree of knowledge, says Rav Chaim of Volozhin, was made up of all the spiritual worlds. Right? There are 10 spiritual worlds according to Kabbalah. Right? We're obviously not going to go into Kabbalah here. Right, we'll just mention that each world, says Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin, each world is sustained and is strengthened by the world below it. So you got one above the other. It's like a chain. What's the top of the chain? Top of the chain is God's heavenly throne. The Kisei HaKavod itself. Right? God's heavenly throne, whatever that is. Right? So that being said, when a person does the wrong... So now, Adam and Eve ate from the tree. Adam and Eve ate from the tree. They took all the spiritual world and put it in flux. Right? All the spiritual worlds now were messed up. So how can we fix it? We can fix it by doing mitzvahs. We can fix it by doing acts of loving kindness. Every time we do the right thing, we strengthen it. Every time we do the wrong thing, we weaken it, right? But all these things, all these spiritual worlds, the point is that they are totally in flux, right? And if they're totally in flux, I have the ability to fix it up. Comes along the school of Slobodka, and they say that we understand the world rests on our shoulders, and through our actions, we can have a positive effect, right? We can certainly have a positive effect, and all the heavenly hosts, etc., desire these actions where we will be subservient to God's will. So now we mentioned the Rambam. Again, this small, infinitesimally small speck of cosmic dust. You have to understand there's a scale. There's a scale in every town and every city. There's a scale on the one side, there's good. On the other side is bad. It comes on the Rambam, and the Rambam says, in the laws of repentance, if I do the right thing, I go on the side of positive. If I do the wrong thing, I go on the side of negative. Now, a person has an obligation to live their life in the way where what I do now has an effect. In other words, what I do can either put the world going one way, or it can put the world going another. But what's the problem? Problem is who lives their life like that. People do what they do. They don't think about what they do. They don't internalize what they do. But if we really understood, if we saw it in action, that now, God's he's going to bring some sort of catastrophe to a certain city, right? Whatever it is, a hurricane, who knows what's going to damage pretty bad. People are going to die, but realize, my action right now could stop that. So it's either we don't pay attention to what we do, which is also part of it, or essentially we don't really believe it. Because if we would really believe it, if we would be believers, the son of believers, or daughters of believers, whatever the case is, wouldn't we measure every single thing we do? We would. Yeah. We would. There's a famous story with the Nesiv. The Nesiv took over the yeshiva in Volodya of Naftali Tzvi Berliner, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, may his name be blessed. He had a dream. He was learning with a private teachers, and let's just say, as a youngster, wasn't the greatest of all students, and he overheard his parents saying, "We don't know what's going to be, what's going to be with this kid. He's always fooling around, like lighting the Rebbe's, coat on fire, like different things like kids can do." So what happened? He goes to sleep, and he heard his parents saying, like, maybe we should just, get him an apprentice to something. At least he should be able to make a living, right? He should be able to do something in the world, make a living. So what happens? He has a dream. What was the dream? Now, this is a little bit hard because he's a child, right? You have to understand, a child's not liable in mitzvahs or transgressions, right? He's under the age of bar mitzvah. Regardless, okay, we'll put that aside. Regardless, he has a dream. Now, he has a dream and he understands he's being judged in the heavenly court. So he sees a big scale, and he hears a heavenly voice, and the heavenly voice says, "Okay, bring out all his mitzvahs." So all of a sudden, you see these white angels come out, some stronger, some weaker, right? Depending how he did certain mitzvahs or whatever. He sees trainloads of these mitzvahs. They jump on the scale goes way down. That's it. The last train comes, the angels get out, they do the moonwalk, they jump down, boom, the scale goes way down. Good. So what happens? No more mitzvahs. So then he has another voice, another heavenly voice. What does the heavenly voice say? Okay, bring out all the transgressions that he did. So what happened? Come all these black angels. Strong black angel, destructive black angel, some stronger, some weaker, depending on the transgressions that he did, jumps on the other side of the scale. Scale starts to go, the scale now starts to come up, right? It's coming up, it's getting closer, right? It's almost even, right? He's getting a little bit scared because these black angels looking to rip him to shreds, right? He can't imagine. So, the scale, he sees black angels, looking to destroy, and it's still a little bit lower, so he's feeling okay. He doesn't think anything's going to happen. Then he hears another heavenly voice. What does the heavenly voice say? The heavenly voice says, okay, bring out all the books he was supposed to write in his lifetime. All of a sudden, these huge volumes of books. He sees the Emek HaDavar. Emek HaDavar is his famous commentary on the Torah. He sees the Emek HaShelos, these other books, and they're huge, right? They're like twice the size of the scale. And these books are coming down to the side of transgression. And now the black angels are like looking to carve him to shreds. And he screams out, goes, what is this? What are these books? What are these books? And what does he say? What does the heavenly voice say? Heavenly voice says, this is what your potential should have been. Now again, we don't normally judge according to what a person's future potential is. In this case, he got judged. It goes on the side of the scale of transgression. The scale breaks. He wakes up. That was his dream. He wakes up. So he runs into his parents' room. He's like, Mom, Dad, I'm ready. I'm ready to sit and learn. Bring me the teacher. Bring me. I'm ready. That dream 100% scared the wits out of him. Now we understand, right? We understand, say, my actions. What could my actions do? Right? And it's a difference between eternal life and not, right? Because, the second movie a person sees after they die is what their potential was. In other words, you see what you did, and then you see what your potential is. So many of the commentators say that this is exactly what one portion of hell is, because now you're a pure soul. I don't know how you get embarrassed as a pure soul and turn red, but that doesn't matter. You see now exactly what you should have done, what you could have accomplished, right? Now, someone's going to answer the question, how do I know what my potential is, right? I had somebody, an 18-year-old kid many years ago, tell me, says, Rabbi, you got to cut me some slack. Forget about this Musar stuff. I'm holding better than 95% of world Jewry. 18-year-old kid. So I said, okay, let's say I agree with you, and God doesn't, right? Then you're going to be held to a higher standard. So someone raised their hand. They said, if I keep Shabbos and Kashrus, am I good? Then someone says, what if I hold by this rabbinic Kashrus organization? He's dead. Like, forget about him. So you're going to say, but I don't know what my potential is, right? Nobody knows. So good. If nobody knows, does that mean you're resting on your laurels, right? We're going to see, a mission in Pirkei Avos that says, that you have to know your place, and you cannot say, when I'm free, I'll study. Because who's to say you're going to be free? Because you're going to say, yeah, I have to work. I have to support my kids. I'd spend time with my family. I got other things to do. Yeah, when I retire, right, then you're busy, going on your boat. You're busy doing other things. When I'm free, I'll do it. Well, who says you're ever going to be free? Right? So part of our potential is that we cannot waste a second of any day. Right, because according to Kabbalah, that it says that when a person gets upstairs, they're going to be judged day by day. So in other words, if you wasted your time, right, one day, it's like that day didn't exist. That's a pretty scary thought. In other words, the majority of your day, you're playing video games. The majority of the day, you were watching whatever, right? According to that time that you wasted, so you could lose that entire day or a good part of it. Now, there's no getting that back. You can repent all you want, right? But in general, getting that back, right, is going to be certainly problematic, right? So according to this, person thinks, oh, what I do doesn't matter. What's my potential anyway? You're going to tell me I'll probably never reach it because no one really reaches their potential, etc. It doesn't matter. God set the standard very high. Right? He set the bar high. So what that means is I have to work like a dog to try and reach it. So now we just explained two different schools of thought. One school of thought is I feel like a piece of dust. Right? I feel like a piece of dirt. Right? Therefore I have to be subservient. The other school of thought is what I do not only matters, can have unbelievable repercussions. Right? For the future. So over here we can almost see how both schools of thought can fit in the Mishnah. According to the school of Navardic, when the Mishnah says, I am for myself, what does it mean? It means important and greatness. Because what am I? Right? Dust, ashes, dude, right? What am I? How can I ever say anything or do anything against God? Because I am nothing, right? I am worth nothing. I'm going to get eaten by worms, right? Etc. Comes along the school of Slobodka. School of Slobodka says, remember, if I'm only for myself, what am I? In the world of physicality in general, we agree, right? We agree with the other school of thought. We're nothing, right? In other words, I'm going to be a small speck of cosmic dust. Very good. So what am I worth? The question's going to be when it comes to spiritual, when it comes to, someone in this world, how can someone really be conceited, right? In other words, when it comes to spirituality, you go through, all of creation has value in God's eyes, right? In other words, even the, plants, animals, they have value, but they don't have any way of reaching any potential. Why not? Because they're programmed, right? They are programmed DNA. You can tell me there are animals that can choose if they want to eat, fine. If they don't want to eat, whatever. But essentially, they have one aspect of the soul that everybody has, right? That's the animalistic side. That's it, right? They can't make decisions. They only go according to what their nature tells them, right? So therefore, we have to try and actualize potential. But again, you are going to tell me this is 100% a catch-22. I don't know what my potential is. Right now, if you were to tell me 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and you said, listen, you're going to have these trolls and you're going to be a YouTube rabbi and on Facebook and you're going to help non-Jews, across the board, help them get to the other side or whatever they need to do in this world, I would have said, what are you talking about? That's not my field. My field was really working with Jews who don't know anything, right? It's really working with them, working with non-Jews, it's a totally different thing. Okay, so I had, a definite few bumps in the road where actually stumbled along, upon this wasn't necessarily my choice. Okay, right? But in the end of the day, imagine if I didn't do that. Imagine if I went into something else or whatever it is. After 120 years, God shows me a video. He shows me that potential. And he says, you could have sat there every Saturday night after Shabbos, getting Dan to laugh and making fun of the CFL. You could have been doing that, and he would have loved it. But, all these people that are going to get inspiration and are going to say, oh, it's about potential and it's about ethics and they're going to change and they're going to work hard. And you have a mass audience wherever people are and they can see it. I would have said, so in my language, what would I have said to God? I would have said, are you off your cotton picking head? What are you talking about? I don't have that kind of potential. I said, okay, I got a big mouth. That's also true. And I remember when I first started teaching, people asked me, they said, where'd you learn to speak so well? I said, I don't have experience. I said, I'm starting with you guys. I said, I don't have any, I don't have any.
Just do it.
I said, yeah. I said, I don't have any real, any real teaching, experience, things I'm still working on, trying to perfect. But at the end of the day, it's all a gift. I don't think there's any question. And the idea, speaking about potential, these are complicated things. This is, there's a lot of Kabbalah involved, other things. But to have a gift to explain difficult things in a relatively simplistic way, that's not an easy thing, right? Definitely not. I make it look easy, right? It's certainly not an easy thing. So imagine after 120 years, I would have said to God, are you kidding? You're going to put me on this pedestal and you're going to say you could have done this and you could have gone in that direction. I would have said, you're crazy. I would have said that's not my potential, right? That's not who I am per se, right? But then God says, but look what you could have been, right? So you're going to say, well, potential is a great thing. And, it sounds like a generic term, how's a person supposed to reach it, right? So at the end of the day, we all know what we're good at. We all know where our strengths are, right? We know where our weaknesses are. Now, not all our strengths can we actually make it into something where it's going to make a living, right? For instance, you can have somebody who's a great, a great painter, tremendous painter. Painters struggle. Writers, in general, unless they're really good,
Starving artist.
they starve, right? So a person can say, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And it doesn't really matter. Whatever I make, but I'm not, the Chovos Levovos and duties of the heart says don't go away from something you're good at, right? Which is also true, because if you do, then it might break you. But at the same time, you got to eat, right? You got to put food on the table, right? So therefore, somehow there has to be some sort of balance, right? In a certain way. So everybody has a mission, right? They have a mission, whatever their potential is. And if a person throws off that yoke, right? They say, okay, I'm not going to go this way. I'm going to do something else. They don't work for themselves, right? They don't work on themselves. Says the Mishnah, no one else can fulfill that obligation for them. In other words, if I have all this potential, you and everybody in Canada and the Yukon Territory and everywhere around the world cannot fulfill whatever my potential is. In other words, people can help me. They can certainly try and point me in the right direction, do other things, but that's my mission, right? Whatever my mission is, no one has the same mission. Everyone's got a different mission. So therefore, what's the point? Point is, they have to take on the yoke of heaven and do what God wants them to do. Again, doesn't matter. We don't discriminate here. Whether you're a Jew, you're not a Jew, everyone has something they were created to do in this world. Now, again, doesn't mean you're going to make a living from it. Not necessarily, right? The two don't necessarily go hand in hand, right? So therefore, you have an issue. You have an issue if that's what I'm good at. So you tell me, okay, work harder, do something in order to make it work. But what if God says no? What if He says that's not what I want you to do right now? Now I can tell you from personal experience that is 100% aggravating. Why? Because, right? And Dan understands 100% what I'm saying. Because if you have great talent, and whatever the talent is, and you want to share that with others, and you want to get paid, right? It's something that you should get paid properly to do, and it just doesn't happen. I had somebody once, from my conversion classes, someone once said, forget about charging and all that. So, it's a whole nother issue. I have a video we did on Tanakh Talk, whether it's permissible, to charge for Torah or not. But someone claimed it was extortion, right? It was extortion. They were, whatever, they didn't have a lot of money and whatever. So one of the things they claim,
no.
Yeah, no, but it gets better. It gets better. What do they claim? They claim not only was it extortion, but they said, what would your rabbi tell you? What would your rabbi tell you about what you do? So my answer was, you know what my rabbi would tell me? 100%, if I would ask him right now, we'd say the same thing, right? 10, 15 years later, say the exact same thing as, wow, you don't even charge that much. You should be charging more, right? Like my wife tells me, I should be charging more. Right. Probably should be, right? Regardless, I said that's what he would tell me, right? Because time is worth something. You put in the effort, but what are people's arguments? Just let me finish this thought. People say, look at Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe himself, he taught in the desert. He didn't get money. He didn't ask for money, donations. Of course he didn't. God made him rich. For the tablets, the broken tablets, He made him rich. You didn't have to worry, right? So you say, well, the Mishnah says, we'll see, the person should charge for free. Okay, we have to clarify what that means. Yeah, you had a question.
No, it wasn't a question, Rabbi. Just more a statement about how one man's garbage is another man's gold, and yet there are those in this day and age that want everything for free. And they may need it. Let's face it. There are those that do honestly need, but when are people actually takers? I have trouble. I love to give. I love to share. I love to do that sort of thing, but I don't like to be taken. Nobody likes to be taken. If you can give an act of kindness and somebody actually distorts your kindness into something it's not by saying, you're just like a well of water I can dip my cup
But
in.
nobody would argue the fact. And this is the point we made when I did Tanakh talk. No one would argue the fact. Someone comes, at a plumbing issue, I had to take care of. You're not haggling on the price unless you're a Jew, right? If he comes back
Scottish.
Right. If he comes back for something else, let's say, I had a washing machine I had a problem with a while ago, and a person came, fixed it, and I had something else wrong with it. Different thing. I wasn't
Double the price.
Wasn't going to, and wasn't going to sit there and haggle with him, right? It was a different thing. Wasn't the same thing that went bad, right? So, people think that, you take an online course. Online courses cost money. They do, it certainly costs a heck of a lot more than what I'm charging, but it's cognitive dissonance, because people have to remember, the church has a hat, right? Everyone puts in. The church has a ton of money, right? So it's not an issue with that. So people say, oh, why are you scamming off non-Jews? Why don't you get a real job? Yeah, maybe I should. I'm good at this. I like what I do. Regardless,
we appreciate
regardless, of all that, all joking aside, the bottom line is sometimes it doesn't work out. Right. Sometimes, okay, you have Hillel, you have others that had other types of jobs, right? They Hillel was a woodcutter. Other people did other things. It's not easy. Even if you're teaching in a yeshiva today, when the yeshiva's open and all that, they're making pennies. They're not making a ton of money, and all these yeshivas always need money, right? But, people go in with tremendous self-sacrifice, but there's an issue. Because people, good qualified people will go into other fields because the other fields pay better, right? And certainly teachers don't pay as much. In secular world, teachers pay better, right? In the religious world, certainly, certainly not as much, But at the end of the day, what people are missing also is the fact that, okay, someone's giving a class. You can say, why should I pay for the class? This person's been learning for 20 years, 25 years, got world-class experience. Et cetera. That's worth something. Now you might say, okay, you're not allowed to extort it. You're not allowed to charge more than, even what the going rate is or whatever, unless people are willing to pay it. But in general, you have to be reasonable. You have to be reasonable as also, right? So here the mission is everyone has a mission, right? Everyone has an obligation to do whatever they're supposed to do. And you can't rest and say, when I get a chance, forget it. You have to see what, whatever that potential is. You can't rest on your laurels, right? A person then cannot say, right? The Mishnah says, I'll be for myself, right? If I'm for myself, what am I? In the sense that there's an obligation on the person himself, right? We have to do what we need to do. And if we don't do what we're supposed to do, then God's going to have claims against us. It's a famous statement by Rav Zusha. Rav Zusha says, God's not going to complain. Why weren't you like this great rabbi? Why weren't you like this great person? What's he going to complain? He's going to complain why you didn't reach the level of Rav Zusha. He's not going to say you could have been like Moshe Rabbeinu. Could have been like Avram Avinu. Right? You could have been like, any of these other great people. It's irrelevant, right? 100%, you have to reach whatever your potential is, right? And that potential is going to be how God decides whatever that potential is. So it has nothing to do, with anybody else, right? And people cannot make the mistake and say, I've heard this a number of times. People say, this Orthodox Jew did this. Whatever it is against Torah. I don't do that, so I'm not so bad. So therefore, I don't have to keep Torah mitzvahs because he transgresses. So that person is going to get upstairs after 120 years. And that's called pass the buck. God's not going to care why this Orthodox Jew transgressed in your situation. That person will get punished, right? God will certainly take care of him. I don't think there's any question about that. God certainly will take care of them. Good. What does that have to do with your service to God? Right? What does that have to do with your own potential? Right? A friend of my father's, told me, so when I was 5 years old, and I got hit by the Rebbe, whatever, when I was in school, and if that's what Judaism is, I said, it's not. And then the person said the same story again. and he repeated it again. Finally, I said, maybe the Rebbe had a bad day. Maybe he shouldn't have been a Rebbe in the first place. Maybe he shouldn't have taught little kids, whatever the case is. But what gives you the right to throw off the yoke of heaven because he had a bad day? Right? But it's an excuse, right? It's an excuse to say, wow, he did this, I don't have to do anything. Right? So I heard Rabbi Chaim should be well, great rabbi, great Jewish historian. Rabbi Chaim once said, imagine you're in school, right? 4th grade, 5th grade, all 10 years old. You have a bad experience with a teacher. What happens? You say, that's it. I'm going to get a job. I'm out of here. Forget about education. Never going to happen. Right? Obviously, it's not practical. You chalk it up to experience. You may need therapy. That may be true. Right? 100%, maybe you were embarrassed in front of others or whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, that's not an excuse. People make excuses all the time about things that happen to them, and even if it's something bad, well, that person's some sort of conduit, right? God wanted it to happen in different ways, and you were the recipient, so the question is, how do I deal with it? Because people make the excuses, as we see by these riots, you don't really see the connection, but people will make the excuse and say, look how they grew up, and look what happened, and look how they were taken advantage of, and it's discriminated against it, and they'll list any number of grievances. Now, let's say, for argument's sake, we agree in all these grievances. Does that give them the right to loot, and to steal, and to destroy? Doesn't give them the right. Does it mean they may have all this anger inside, and they've been messed up by the system? I agree 100%. Is that going to change? My opinion, it's not going to change. But, at the end of the day, there's an undercurrent. That's the way it is, right? I'm not saying it shouldn't change, right? So we don't want to be misquoted. But at the end of the day, it doesn't give you the right to go haywire, right? It doesn't, imagine people survive the last few months under this virus. Their businesses almost go under and they survive. Now imagine now their business gets destroyed because of these looters, right? It's incredulous. Yeah, question or statement.
Well, yeah, Rabbi, I just wanted to reiterate, because earlier in the show you gave an analogy about somebody breaking into your home and you have the right to shoot him under Torah. I mean, it's
Right.
not technically murder. You're defending your home and you're under that threat. These looters, there's no criteria in Torah that would permit that, right? Just none. It's yeah.
Stealing. Not only is it's stealing, it's destroying property. Like my Rebbe says, he's very big at making what do you call it? Protests, here in Israel against desecration of Shabbos, peaceful protests against desecration of Shabbos, against, moving bones or whatever, burials, things or whatever. And he makes clear 100% you are not allowed to destroy property. Now, there is such a question of what we call the law of the land, whether the law of the land applies in Israel or not, right? That there's a whole question. But even so, even if you tell me it doesn't apply, what gives you the right to destroy property? So then people say, look at these Orthodox Jews. Who's their rabbinic authority telling them that it's permissible? Nobody. They're just a bunch of rabble-rousers. Right? In my language, just like the people stealing, they're a bunch of thugs, right? That's my language, and I'm going to stick
Mindless,
to it.
Yeah.
That's it. They're a bunch of thugs. That's all they are. They just, they want free stuff, and a lot of these things going on. There are people from other states coming into other states, to do all this, which is crazy. Which is absolutely crazy. But somebody, the governor of Florida said you have a right to arm. You have a right. You have a right to defend your property. Now, someone who comes in, if they know you have a gun, they're not interested in standing up against you. It's not that type of thing, right? They're not interested in killing, right? They're interested in free Nikes. They're interested in iPads. They're interested in other things, right? If your store is boarded up, they're not going to waste their time. They're not going to waste their time trying to unboard it, right? If it's not boarded up, they'll smash the windows. They'll try and get whatever they can. That's a whole different thing. What gives them the right? Not only that, according to the Noahide Laws, they're liable for a death penalty because they're stealing. Technically, if there wouldn't be a law of the land, I could kill them. 100%, I could kill them. right? But obviously, because of the law of the land, I can't. But the question,
with the court, dinam, with dinam.
yeah, right. The question is, the question I posed was, if they have permission, let's say the governor of Florida said they have a right to, to defend or etc. So someone's on the outside that doesn't even walk in the door. He's on the outside. You know what they're going to do. You start shooting. You 100% start shooting. Question is, are you liable or not? Right? But you know what their intent is. Right? Not to get sidetracked here, but you 100% know, you know what they're going to do. So therefore, why should I be liable? Yeah.
Oh, I just want to back this up because a little bit, because maybe some people out there aren't familiar with what's really been going on in the United States, but there was a bit of injustice was it Minneapolis where, 4 policemen got involved, took down a suspect, and pressed hard on the suspect. In four police officers, one's been charged with murder, right, 2nd degree, and
right.
the 3 other officers were accomplices. Where does that fall, Rabbi, when say maybe law enforcement is heavy-handed?
So that's the whole question. If they murder unlawfully, okay, this guy had a rap sheet, yay long, right? He wasn't a choir boy by any stretch. Okay, right? Now the whole question, if he actually died by that or he had other underlying things, right? Regardless of that, even if you want to tell me it's a conspiracy theory, whatever it is, right? If the guy's, begging for his life and he can't breathe, right? So now they could have said, oh, he's just joking, right? He might come and attack us, but there were 4 of them there, right? Okay, that's unlawful usage, right? Unlawful usage of force, right? So unlawful usage of force, the person dies. That's negligence, right? Or more negligence is murder. According to Noahide Laws,
but it does not justify the looting.
No, but certainly, what's the connection? There's absolutely, even if they want to identify, with this guy and all these underlying things or whatever, they're being cooked up by these leftists, right? By this Antifa group or whatever. They're a bunch of thugs, anarchists. That's what they are, right? Let's call a spade a spade. I'm not justifying what the police did. It's happened in France. It happened in other places, right? I'm not saying not. Can people use, unlawful force? 100%, right? But they're in a very vulnerable position. Also they want to subjugate, the person where they're not going to get harmed, and if this guy in any way could pull out a weapon and they let him up, they're gonzo. You got to be careful for that also. It doesn't give them the right to smash their head and kill them, right? That's, there was a case here in Israel a few years ago. There was a soldier that, an Arab attacked, and they shot him. He was on his legs. And the guy, and the soldier's only 18, 19, and he thought the Arab was getting a gun or a knife or whatever, and he shot him while he was down. He spent time in jail. Because according to protocol here, when someone's already just about subdued, you're not allowed to shoot him. Right? Now, this person overreacted. He's an 18-year-old kid. Right? 100%, he overreacted. Right?
Lost
now they
control.
didn't they didn't produce a weapon. They didn't produce a knife. And it looked like this guy had a knife. And he was going to lunge at this person. Right? What he's going to lunge at him, not to shake his hand. He's going to try and kill him. So what did he do? He shot him again. He killed him. Right? He went to jail for a number of months. For a number of months. Now that there's a whole question, before I get to your question, there's a whole question, how, if that's really murder, right? That's self-defense. That would be under self-defense. But for goodness sakes, someone comes lunging at you, you don't ask him if he's got a knife. Arabs are trained to kill. That's all they're trained to do, right? Not all of them, right? But whatever, the ones who are out there, that want to do this, they're trained to kill. So if they're down, someone comes over, and they're not dead yet, they're still going to try and come after you, right? Now, the question is, if you had them subdued, if you had them chained up, right, that's a different issue, right? He had him chained up and he shot him anyway, right? There's no way this guy's going to do anything. Okay, right? Now, the question is where you draw the line, right? So see, you trolls out there, Torah says don't murder. What about this case? Where does the Torah tell me in this case? Anything. Where I'm liable or I'm not. Either way, it doesn't matter. Find me a place in the Torah that answers this question. There is no place. I'll tell you, there is no place. You have to look in oral law. You have to see precedent, right? But again, this law is being done by the government. It's not done by Torah, right? So somebody has to have the right to defend themselves. Right. And so what happens? Are you going to say, well, this guy's trigger happy? He wasn't trigger happy. He wanted to make sure this guy's not going to come at him. He did grab the trigger too quick. I agree, right? But he felt his life was in danger. Again, if the person's tied up and he shot him, just, make sure he's dead, or whatever, that's forbidden, right? That you're not allowed to do, right? Now, again, what happens if someone comes to kill you? What does the Torah say? You kill him first. But if he doesn't die, but you subdue him without killing him, do I have an obligation to kill him? No. What if you could kill him? Again, this is why you need oral law. If you could have wounded somebody, right? You could have wounded someone. You're a marksman. You're a sniper.
Yeah. Disable him, shoot him in the leg.
You could hit him straight in the heart, right? So what happens? Instead of hitting him in the leg, you kill him. You could have wounded him. Hit him in the kneecaps twice, right? You could have wounded him, but you hit him right between the eyes. You didn't have to kill him, right? So there's no question. If you didn't have to kill him, you could be liable. Yeah.
Well, now you're leading into the deliberate actions, Rabbi. In hockey, we see this a lot more often, where people are acting in front of the ref. They literally pretend they get hit and they fall down on the ice, and then the other person gets an infraction.
They call it, right?
Well, yeah, they're just flat out acting and dancing. Right. I mean, there's one guy on the Boston Bruins pretty good for that, but
no.
The point being,
I never watched hockey. I was never a big hockey fan. You can say whatever you want against the Bruins. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I was a Bobby Orr fan growing up.
Yeah, go ahead.
But my point is, when somebody's literally on the cuff, lying, acting, doing something so somebody else gets an infraction, I guess it drives me insane to think that people will find the letter of the law and the edge of the law, and then manipulate it in a bad faith way to tag something on someone else. We can't justify the looters. You can't justify the looters. They can't say it's because they had a poor upbringing. We know that. We know where the line is drawn clearly. But what about those because ethics is really what we're trying to get to the base here. When somebody has such a poor ethics that they will try, like you mentioned, a political party, where they will always be against the other party without ever knowing what that issue is. It doesn't matter if it's from that other party. We're going to be against it. Right. They're against. When does ethics start to really shine? When people are still permitted to lie and wrongfully accuse. I just don't know how that plays out with Noahide.
There are very few cases where a person's allowed to lie. Right? When it comes to marital harmony, you're allowed to lie. Right, for certain things. You're allowed to lie, let's say, to hide your knowledge. Right? In other words, to show humility. Someone says, can you answer me this question over here? It's like, no, I'm not really holding there. Right? But really, you do understand. You just want to show humility and say, no, I'm not really, there. There are a few things. You're allowed, you'd be technically allowed to lie for. But that's it. Right? The Torah tells me, davar sheker tirchak. You're not allowed to lie. Right? Even white lies. Right? Even white lies. One of the things about, the main aspect of Lashon Hara, of speaking badly against someone else, is not that you're telling the truth. You're lying. You're putting someone down in order to make yourself look better, even if it's not true. Right? Most times it's not true. Right? But the Rabbi Chaim says, even if it is true, right? This is why non-Jews it doesn't apply. Because if I were to tell you, if something is all over the internet, right? Everybody knows it. It's been proven. Let's just say, for argument's sake, we'll make it easy. It's 100% been proven. If it's been proven, I'm not allowed to repeat it for no reason. I have to have some sort of purpose, in doing it. Now, if you were to ask a secular Jew or a non-Jew, say, does that make logical sense? Doesn't make sense. Everybody knows it. right? Everyone knows the Patriots cheat. Not true, right? But even if that would be, right? So who cares, right? Am I allowed to perpetuate a lie? Am I allowed to lie for no reason? Certainly not, right? You certainly cause someone damage. That's exactly what Lashon Hara is because you're causing someone else damage, even if they're not there, even if it doesn't directly affect them. Is it going to stop someone going to their business? Not necessarily. Is it going to stop other things? Maybe not. Right? You're going to say it doesn't affect them. Who cares? And the person may never find out. That may also be true. But even if I know all these factors, right? The Rabbi Chaim says I still have a number of factors where you have to go through them before you can repeat it. Right? One of them is you have to have seen it yourself. Second of all, you can't exaggerate. Right? It's another factor. Right? If you saw it, you have to tell it the way it is. If you didn't see it, you can't rely on it 100%. You can be worried about it. You can warn people, but you can't take it 100% as fact. Now you're going to tell me, well, if that's the case, it's a big problem. You're right. People speak about others all the time, whether in the media, whether in social media, whether whatever it is. People do it. Now, this destroys, right? This destroys people's reputation. So, one of the biggest, there are a number of huge lies, that are out there that have been perpetuated, for a very long time, right? Obviously, one of them is Christianity, right? One of the biggest lies in the world, right? But even a more modern one is the fact that the Jews stole away land from the Arabs. Right, that is one of the biggest perpetuated lies. If you know anything about history, that's my expertise. It's American history, but also somewhat Israeli history. So if you know anything about Israeli history, you know that the Arabs are lying. That when the Jews came in, it wasn't like these quote unquote Palestinians had their own land. They were marauders. That's all they were. They were like Bedouins, right? You had Transjordan that was here. You had Iraqis here. You had Iraqi groups here. You had Lebanon. You had Syria. You had other groups, and the Israelis got them out because it's indefensible otherwise. But and not only that, but at the beginning of the 20th century, Rothschild gave a chunk of money to buy up different things from the land for the Jews. Who did he buy it from? He didn't buy it from the what do you call it? From the English. Wasn't from the Turks. It was from the Arabs. Right? Now it's illegal, 100%. You'll die. If an Arab is caught selling land to Jews, right? In order to cover that up, right? But in general, when the Israelis came, they bought up the land and all that. You weren't talking about an entity. It's not like you're talking about Ethiopia, Chad. Like they had a whole country. They had a whole chunk of land. And they had their own flag. They had their own government. When the Jews, the Israelis wanted to take them out of refugee camps in the 70s, right? The famous UN, the biggest anti-Semitic group out there, the famous UN said you leave them in refugee camps, they have the status of refugees. And what did the Israelis say? They said, okay. So they gave them the status of something they never had,
right?
Which is absolutely stupidity, right? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any logical sense, but that is what they did. So now, if you ask anybody, right, most people, you ask them, who has the right to the land of Israel? Now, obviously, the Jews believe it because the Torah tells us. Forget that. Who was here first? Did the Arabs, did the Palestinians, quote unquote, did they have their own land? Never. Were they an entity? They were nothing. At best, they should go back to Jordan. At best, they should go back to Iraq or these other places. But what are they claiming? Their claim to peace, not to get too political, right? Their claim to peace is to go back to 1967 and then have all the refugees come back, 1 million refugees. When's the last time anyone fought a defensive war and had to give land back? Never happened, right? In the 1970s, the only closest thing you had was an exchange of people between Pakistan and India. That's it, right? So I saw a great political cartoon, right? That said, before you give land back to the Arabs, right, America has to give back California, New Mexico, right?
And
in
Texas.
Arizona, to the Mexican, right? In Texas to the Mexicans. They have to give back Florida
That ain't
to the
gonna happen,
Spaniards,
and you know it.
and they have to give back all the land they took from the Indians. After they give all that land back, then we'll give the land back to the Arabs. But again, that is if you ask most people, they would tell you the reason there's a problem with the Arabs because we stole their land. It's totally not true. Not true. I mean, it's one of the biggest lies ever perpetuated. You read any articles on it, it's all our fault. We took the land. We oppressed them. We did this. Okay. They were in refugee camps. We wanted to take them out, right? Put them in normal society. Let them, do whatever. And the UN, right? The UN said, no, they're going to be, they're going to have this status as refugees. And we agreed. So we agreed to call them refugees. Like they were an entity. They were a people. Makes no sense. And again, in the entire world, they'll say the reason that all these problems are is because we stole land from them. And we bought it legally. Right? A lot of it, 100% was bought legally. And even the land that we took back that they claim was theirs or whatever, we got it in a war. You started the war, not us. We didn't start the we're not interested in starting wars. We want peace. That's all we want. Be left alone. Right? But the Arabs are not going to give up. And world opinion is with them. The fact that the Jewish people have the land of Israel in general, it's an unbelievable miracle. Right? I don't think there's any question. What happened when they declared, the UN declared that the land of Israel belongs to the Jews, Palestine is theirs, the Arabs attacked. That's what they did. The Arabs attacked. Right? So who's ever given land back in a defensive war? Even if you want to tell me, well, for the sake of peace, they should do that. The Arabs have broken every single peace agreement, every last one, in the last 20 years. Since the early 90s with Yitzhak Yitzhak Shamir and Arafat and all that, they broken every single one, every last treaty they broken. So there's no one to talk to, right? And it's brought down that there will not be peace until the Messiah comes. So it's really a moot point. But even if you want to tell me, we're not going to hold by that, and there should be peace, and let's negotiate, there's no one to talk to. Right? Certainly right now there's no one to talk to. But at the end of the day, why in the world should we have the obligation to give land back, when we took it in a defensive war? And if you would give the West Bank back, let's just say, Ehud Barak in 2002 offered Arafat, 95% of the West Bank. If you see the West Bank is the heart of the country. It's indefensible. Totally indefensible, yeah.
Well, Rabbi, I wanted to ask you, how this possible annexation stuff is affecting you personally. I wanted to ask, but now's probably not the time to get into that.
We'll see if it happens. It's not gonna, it's where I live technically is in the West Bank, but it would just be part of Jerusalem, so that wouldn't necessarily be such a big deal. We're talking about further up north and other places, where there is a very strong, Jewish presence. But we'll see. Who knows what's going to happen, with this election or whatever. And certainly, if Biden wins, he's going to shoot that down. That's nothing to talk about. He's not going to be hold by it. And it'd be very hard to pass it. It'd be definitely very hard to pass it. But again, when it comes to land in general, if they want it, let them come take it. Right? We won the war. Right? We won the war. Why in the world should we have to give it back? In a way that's going to be indefensible, because you're going to do it exactly what happened in Gaza, and you made now Gaza into a terrorist state. Right? I'm not saying you have the Jews there and occupiers and how you work that. It's problematic. You got 1 million people there. It's problematic. They don't want you there. You don't want to be there. You're risking your life. But if you allow this entity, whatever it is, to have that land, you could be talking all kinds of problems. Right, a lot of security issues, and certainly nobody, we have enough issues as it is, but to make a terrorist state right in the middle of Israel, that would be a disaster. If you wanted to go anywhere, forget it. If you want to go up north or other places, they would have control over that, and they would make that into
it's
a
just like the
terrible
riots. The riots here, Rabbi. The riots make no sense. They make no sense, and yet Israel's had
I'll give you one example. You have Arabs walking all over the country, working in the country. No one gives them flack, right? No one. Okay, they might have a little bit of flack having working papers and all that. No one gives them flack. They walk around like kings. God forbid Waze took you into an Arab village, you're as good as dead. And it's happened. People have almost got lynched or, got lynched by going, by going in the wrong area. Now, what does that tell you? It's a tremendous amount of hatred. Tremendous amount of hatred that they've been indoctrinated, right? Indoctrinated for the last 50 years. Kill Jews, put Jews in the ocean. That's what they want. They don't want anything less than that. And anyone who thinks that, they're fooling themselves. Right, because that's just the reality. That's just the reality on the ground, right? But that being said, we're all for peace. We're not saying not. We're all for peace. So make something reasonable. Show that you're an entity that you can control your own people, which you can't, right? And show something that's going to work. But every single agreement, again, you can just check this. This is open information. Any single agreement they've made, they broke it. Right, so it doesn't leave us with that much faith that whatever they're going to tell you, they're going to hold by. So you want to say that annexation is going to be a provocation and we don't have the right to the land. Then you get to the whole beginning question: whose land is it? Do we have a right to the land or don't we have a right to the land? And even if you say we don't have a right to the land according to the Torah, we won the war. Right? What are you going to say? We're going to give the land back to the Indians? What do the Indians have? A bunch of reservations. They're all smoking dope and all sniffing aerosol cans. Have a bunch of casinos. We owe them millions in compensation. That's where my leftist, side comes out. We owe them millions, but we're not giving it back. We're certainly not giving it back. We're compensating them. We destroyed them. We totally destroyed them. We said, be like us, right? Manifest destiny. We're going to go from New York to California. Be like us, right? Or we're going to kill you. They said, hey, we got bows and arrows. So the Americans said, we got guns. And 9 times out of 10, we'll win, right? Yeah. So, yes, there's tremendous injustice. But at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, is America about to give up land to the Indians? No. Right? Is any other nation, forget Israel, is any other nation that won a defensive war, are they giving land back? Or are they exchanging populations? They want the law of return. Again, the last time it happened was in the 70s between Pakistan and India. That's it. There is nothing else. So what do you want from us? Why are you putting us on a higher pedestal and say you have to do what goes against the entire world? Doesn't make any sense. Right? Totally, I'm talking in practical terms. I'm not talking Kabbalah. I'm not talking oral law. Right? I'm not talking any of that. In practical terms, can they hold by a peace agreement or not? And if they can't, what are you talking about? And why in the world should we give any of the land back? Right? Any of the land back has to do with the fact we won a defensive war.
Yeah, Rabbi, I love the fact that Torah says we're aiming to get to the point where we'll beat our swords into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks, and learn war no more. And I think, dispel the drama, let the Torah shine. And I'm so for sharing, the ethics and the wisdom of Torah out of Israel. It just gets...
one thing we're talking about ethics, we can actually tie this in. The Israeli government is very proud of saying we're the most moral army. They want to show, before they attack, Gaza, they put out pamphlets and say, listen, go hide somewhere. We're going to blow up the place. Whatever. They want to show they're the most moral. When it comes to war, there is no morality. There is no morality. There are people going to die. Innocent people are going to die. Right? They were shooting missiles a few years ago. They were shooting missiles from a UN school. And the Israelis blew it up and the UN went ballistic. No pun intended. They said, why are you blowing up our school? Well, because these idiots are shooting rockets from the school. Right? Now, in war, do I have to warn the other side? I don't have to warn the other side. If they use people as human shields, why is that my problem? We can only do what we can do, but they're afraid to do anything because they know a lot of those places are booby trapped. They got grandmothers and who knows what attached to all kinds of things, right? You're in a no-win situation. No matter what you do is going to be bad, right? In other words, they're trying to show we want to show to the world we are more moral than anyone else. So that's why this guy ends up going to jail when this guy lunges at him. Any other place, there's no discussion. You're in the right. Guy lunged at you. It's over. You're going to have an investigation. Got to be open-minded. Come on. Why is the person going to want to defend himself if he knows he's going to go to jail? Right? You can only be so ethical. For goodness sakes, no one else is playing by these rules. And if this guy puts his gun down and the Arab lunges him and he ends up injuring him, or God forbid, killing him, so what happened to the rules? Right? Then you got beaten by your own rules. That doesn't make any sense. Right? But that's on the books. That 100% is on the books. So again, are innocent people going to die in a war? Yes. Should you try and minimize it? 100%. But you're not playing with normal rules. Right? These are not normal. Yeah. These it's not only not perfect. Why would the Israelis not go in, in a ground war in Gaza, try and, stop missiles from coming up? Because they're afraid the whole place is booby-trapped. They're going to lose tons of lives. It'll be like Vietnam in different ways. But they're going to use human shields. Right? So even if they accomplish what they want to, they're going to have a lot of casualties. Nobody wants casualties. Right? 100%. No one wants to send their kids in there. But they're going into a place that's booby-trapped. Right? You're not fighting a normal war over here. If you had an army, you say, okay, let's fight. You're trying to attack us, we'll kill you. Fine, they're not going to do that. Right? Because these people are a bunch of wusses. They're like Amalek. They attack the weak. Right? They attack people who can't defend themselves. It's fine. You'll tell me there are border clashes and they attack the army and whatever. Yeah. But they also stab people in broad daylight. They also blow up buses. God forbid. And they do these other things. Right? So if you go after them and try and solve the problem, you're going to cause a lot more problems and the world will be outraged. Not that I care. Not that necessarily they should care, but it has a lot of effect. And, that whole situation there, that's the only way to sell, if there are 100, 200 missiles, that come in and the people on the borders are getting shellacked, imagine, right? Just imagine if Mexico started shooting missiles into Texas. Right? They'd be shooting, killing people left and right, ask questions later. Nothing talking. Wait. Humane? Forget about humanity. Forget about being humane and being moral. They're going to shoot first, ask questions later, and no one's going to say boo. Because they're going to say you have a right to defend yourself. Right? Doesn't everybody say, the Jews have a right to defend themselves, but you got to be merciful. I have to be merciful. Guys coming at me with a gun. With a meat cleaver or who knows what. They're not fighting fair. That's not the way you fight normally, but okay.
Well, okay, Rabbi. Because we're getting into deep stuff here. I really think that war is a senseless thing. Nobody denies that. Maybe I want to throw a question here from Cole's asking, can Lashon Hara be the same as murder? Just to change up the topic a little bit, because let's face it, I guess how much of war is mindless, animalistic, when does somebody figure that they can declare war? Why would, just to back it up into everyday living, can Lashon Hara be the same as murder? I don't know. I mean, I just try to tone it down as we wind this down.
It certainly can be. The reason is because you're destroying someone. Even if, let's say, they're not around, it's not necessarily going to affect them. What's worse is embarrassing someone in public. When you embarrass somebody in public, you lose your portion of the world to come. One very simple reason is because when you embarrass someone, they turn white and then they turn red. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, if it wouldn't be for the fact that your face holds the blood vessels inside, you would die. Right? You would die of embarrassment. Right? So they say, the rabbis tell us, it's akin to murder. Is it murder? One of the 3 cardinal sins? No. It's not murder. Is it similar? In certain ways, it's similar to murder because you destroyed someone. You 100% destroyed someone. But yeah, Lashon Hara kills 3 people. It kills the person who said it, right? It kills the person who heard it, and it kills the person who said it against. And again, even if it doesn't affect them, even if a person would say, I would say it in front of their face, it doesn't make it right. Right? It doesn't have to affect their business, doesn't have to affect their kids. Right? But a person's putting someone down to make yourself look better. But you were destroying them. Right? There's a fine line between murder and libel, what we call motzi shemra, right? Libel is a pretty serious thing, right? Lashon hara is very close to libel. Yeah, question.
Well, Rabbi, because this is kind of going into a head here. I mean, when you talk about the embarrassment, nobody wants to embarrass another. But when we're dealing with ideologies of religion, especially for B'nai Noach that have come out of, say, Christianity here in the West, many more are looking, towards what are we really talking about? When it comes to the ideology, let's face it, I have seen in my just short time as B'nai Noach, after spending decades as a Christian, educator and author, and whatever the case might be, there is this embarrassment. There is this white face that comes about when you realize that your whole religious belief structure has no root.
Yeah, but so that's the whole question. Can you say lashon hara about yourself? Right? That's can you say I can't believe I did this or I can't believe I did that? According to Chofetz Chaim, you shouldn't speak lashon hara against yourself. Right? Say, oh yeah, I used to eat shrimp. Oh yeah, I mean it could be to make a point, to give strength to somebody. Maybe it's permissible, but keep in mind one thing. When it comes to ideology, right? And there's a lot of false ideology out there. Tremendous amount of false ideology. You have a mitzvah 100% if it's certainly if it's idolatry. Certainly if it's idolatry, you can make fun of it as much as you want. Right? You can die. There's no lashon hara. There's no issue. Why? Because it has no power. Right? I don't have to show respect for it. Right? If I see if I see an idol, and I could take a sledgehammer, destroy it. Right? No, that's my mitzvah. Right? To destroy it. Now, ideology. You can say, wow, if you have a discussion with someone or whatever, maybe you have to show a little bit of respect or, okay, you don't want to come to fisticuffs or whatever. You want to have a nice debate or whatever the case is, but there's certainly a mitzvah to deride it, especially if it's false and especially if it's, leading people astray. There's a whole thing here that they wanted to open up on a certain TV station here, having a missionary group, and so I saw somebody, another troll, that whole thing, saying, oh, now I saw, the Jews are really afraid, and why, and they're going to see the light, and they're going to see the truth. These people are like so stupid. Why are they stupid? Because why don't we want it? Because there are a lot of people that could be susceptible to listening to this garbage and go astray. Not that it has any truth. Are we worried it has any truth? No. I'll make fun of it as much as I can. I'll try and show proofs against it, different things, how foolish it is, good, right? But if you have people that are susceptible, and these people they can't defend themselves. They offer money, they offer other things. That's dangerous, right? And it's dangerous because they're leading people astray. So yeah, we are concerned. We are concerned. We're not concerned it's true that we've seen the light, okay? That we're not going that far. We don't, what are we afraid of? We're afraid that people who don't know how to defend themselves get caught up in a lie. That's what we don't want, right? And we have the right to say freedom of religion, big deal. We don't want it. We don't want this. Not only that, but the way they did it was an underhanded way, just like the Christians do. They didn't say straight up what they were going to do, right? They lied. They totally lied. But even so, now we know what their intention is. So they pushed it off. I don't remember what happened in the end. They definitely pushed it off a week, in order to see what the court's going to decide, et cetera, what's going to be. But yeah, it would be a terrible thing. It would definitely be a terrible thing if it got out there. And, what we're seeing is an increase here, certainly in Israel, of missionary activity. Flyers in people's mailboxes and whatever. These missionaries got a ton of money. If you're worried about extortion, worry about them. Don't worry about what I'm doing. They got 10 times, billion times more than I do. Nothing to talk about. But what are they doing? They're perpetuating a lie. That's what the fear is. But the fear is not that, oh, we're so worried that we don't have the truth. That's not the fear. That is not the fear at all. Go blow it out of your nose.
Checkmate.
That's it, right? That we're not worried about that, right? We're worried about you preying on people that don't know. Are you ever going to convince me? Never, right? I already proved checkmate. But okay, but other people don't have that knowledge. You're preying on them? Yeah, that we're worried about, because we don't want to lose any Jews to lies. And we believe 100% it's a lie. That's why, if you take any believing person and you say, okay, tell me according to this book, this Noonan verse edition, all the curses that this book says, I'm willing to take upon myself and my family, right? If you're a believing person, you'll say it because the book doesn't have any weight. It's not true, right? 100%. Oh, you say you swear in JC's name, you're gonna pay. Okay, good. Let him come back and pay me, right? Guy hanging on a stick. Good luck. I'm not worried, right? I'm not worried for me. I'm not worried for my family. I'm not worried for anybody else. But you want to come and lie, and you want to come under pretentious, circumstances, and you want to convince people, etc. of that could be susceptible. Yeah, we'll take issue with that. Right, because they can't defend themselves. It's like hitting someone with their hands tied behind the back. They don't know anything, right? And unfortunately, you got a lot of people.
It's unjust, just like
that have been susceptible, especially in the States. Didn't have money, other things. They came in, helped them out, believe in JC, and they got them, right? And they got them. It wasn't based on ideology, right? They came with ulterior motives, and it was a lie. And then, and they came in different ways to convince someone, not straight up, right? Because these people don't know. They said, oh, look, we can help you with this. We can help you with that. We'll take care of your rent for the next few months. All you have to do now is believe in JC. Well, that's not on a right premise, right? The right premise is have it hit straight up.
It's kind of like going out for a peaceful protest, pretending you're out there for a peaceful protest, and then you start smashing windows and looting.
Yeah, or taking pizza dough because you want to have pizza. No, it's really for fun. I only wanted pizza dough. Yeah, good luck. So we take issue with that. I don't blame you. We believe in the truth, and we don't want to lose any Jews to a lie. And we don't, and the people that are going to get lost are people who are more susceptible and they can't defend themselves. So if you're going against someone who can't defend themselves, yeah, we don't want that. We're not interested in that. But it has not, and again, you can quote me on this, good thing we're taping this, right? 100%, it's not because we are shaking in our boots that the Torah is true, that the New Testament is true. That is not the case at all. You give me a New Testament, I don't care if it's written in Hebrew, I'll kick it like a field goal. I got no issues. I'll burn it. I'll spit on it. I'll do whatever I can because I'm going to show you it's a crock. Oh, but you want to misrepresent? You want to lie? I'm going to take issue with that.
Very good, Rabbi. Rabbi, we know that you are a wonderful, ethical man, sharing the honorable side of Torah and the truth that's there in Torah. You've been taught yourself by a wonderful rabbi, and we are just overjoyed that you take the time to share this with us. I mean, there are some things that tend to provoke people, and we can get overtaken with drama if we let our hearts rule over our mental state, and we need to keep in check that our minds should never check out in life and let drama overtake us. But there is a time, as you started even from the beginning, when somebody's literally busting into your house out to do violence. You've got to stand up to that. There is a time to stand up, but we need to know when it's the right time. And I think that's the greatest thing about understanding the true morality behind ethics and Pirkei Avos is so that, you don't overreact, you stay level-headed, but you do stand strong when you need to stand strong. Now, we've gone our 90 minutes. Have you got any final summary for us?
Yeah,
Rabbi?
one last thing. You have to remember, God spoke, passed it to Moshe, gave it to us. We have an obligation to be the greatest people we can be, Jew or non-Jew. We're going to be thrown a lot of things our way, things that are hard, right? Things that may be easy or things that are hard. At the end of the day, we have to serve God. And one of the reasons, I did this Q&A, on this topic is to exactly show what the Torah says and what's going on, and it doesn't matter how you grew up or what you did, it's wrong, right? And you have to do whatever the Torah tells you, right? Whatever you're obligated in to the best of your ability, and that's it. Can't make excuses. Can't say I grew up in a broken home. These are factors. I'm not saying not, right? But at the end of the day, you have to own up for what you did, because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you grew up. It matters right now what you do. And if you're doing something wrong, don't you think God knows? He's going to say, of course I put that anger gene in you. I didn't want you to act on it. But you say, but you wired me this way. Good. I wired you that way. I wired someone else, a different way. But I gave you these things in order to overcome them. And even if you say, well, you did such a great job and I failed, well, you're a failure. It's your fault. You didn't work hard enough. Right? God never puts a person in a place that they can't handle, even though we think we can. So that's
right. Anger only exists. Anger only
Yeah.
exists so that we can put ourselves in check.
Right? And someone will say, hey, but I have an anger gene, a really nasty anger gene. Okay, so do I. So what? So we have an anger gene. Does that mean I should really act on it the way the way it gets me? No.
Well, Rabbi,
something to overcome. Yeah.
One thing I've learned, like especially, I think it was from the Rambam, that we should be doing what's right because it's right. Do what's right because it's right. And I think a lot of people, if they know what is ethical, if they know what is correct, what is the right way, whether to the left or to the right, which is the way we should walk in it, we need to know, but then do it because it's the right thing to do, not because it's questionable. Everybody's looking for clarity, and just know all eyes on the planet are looking at Israel. We're longing to see that light shine. And I love today how you talked about Israel's trying to be the most moral army on the planet. More than that, it's the calling from Hashem to be who you're called to be, a kingdom of priests. And I have no problem listening, to the Torah come from learned people such as yourself. It's always a joy. But can we wind it down for this week? Because I've got to get ready for my next class. Any final words?
Can wind it down. We're good.
Well, Rabbi, thank you so much for sharing. Are we on again for next week, tentative?
Next week sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Hashem willing.
I don't see any problem.
All right, folks. So till next week, have a wonderful, wonderful week.